Hello everybody, thank you for being here. I am Adrian, and this is my first video of the new year. Happy 2021 to everybody. I hope this becomes a wonderful year. Today I will be talking about Maitreya and his presence within the different traditions, the different religions throughout history. And the reason why I chose this topic is because in the past I have been asked many times, if Maitreya has been around for thousands of years, how come I'd never heard of him? If he has been present within the different traditions, how come I have never heard of him mentioned in the different religions? So today I will try to point to some of the places where you can find him. You can also find the links to those locations in the comments in case you want to read a little bit more. But first and most important, I would like to remind you that the most important thing that you can take from listening to these videos, watching these videos, is Maitreya's message and Maitreya's priorities, which is to remind us that we're here to create peace. And in order to do that, we need to share the resources. Sharing leads to justice, and justice leads to peace. Without justice, there can be no peace, and without sharing, there can be no justice. So that's the most important thing that you can take, Maitreya's priorities, and also the reminder that humanity is just one. We are all brothers and sisters of this one beautiful family, and we're here to take care of each other, thus manifest a wonderful world. And by doing so, we also begin to manifest our inner divinity, because we are divine beings. So those are the key teachings of Maitreya, and that is the most important thing that you can take out of watching these videos. Alright, let's move into today's topic, Maitreya and his presence within the different traditions. And to get started, we have to go back thousands of years. I think, as far as I understand and my little research, the first place where you can find Maitreya being mentioned in the old traditions is in the Hindu tradition, and within the Upanishads you will find Maitreya being mentioned. There he is mentioned. He actually has an Upanishad, a Maitreya Upanishad, which is considered a minor Upanishad, but there are other mentions of Maitreya and mentions of other names very similar to Maitreya, such as Maitreyi or Maitritri, that I would consider that these are mentions of the great teacher Maitreya. Maitreya is known as a wise sage. So we can go back thousands of years within the Hindu tradition, and we'll find them in the Upanishads. We also find him in the Puranas, another group of books. And there is a particular Purana known as Conversations between Vidura and Maitreya, in which these two characters, Vidura and Maitreya, are known as wise sages, and they sit down and have a conversation, which is technically what the Upanishads are conversations between wise people. In particular, you can find the teachings of Maitreya in the Bhagavad Gita, the short book, and the adventures of Arjuna and Krishna going to war. We can find Maitreya's teachings because Krishna was one of Maitreya's disciples, and Maitreya released part of his teachings through his disciple Krishna, and you can find such teachings in the Gita. You don't find Maitreya by name in the Gita, but you find his works through one of his disciples, the Lord Krishna. Moving into Buddhism, we will find Maitreya being mentioned several times. In particular, when Gautama Buddha, during one of his discourses, he foretells that in the future there will be a Buddha like himself that would come to guide humanity into a new age alongside the angels. You can find this discourse in the Digha Nikaya. Other than that, in the Buddhist tradition, they know Maitreya as the future Buddha, and depending on the tradition or the scholars, most of them think that Maitreya Buddha will appear into the future, perhaps thousands of years into the future. And that's not my belief. My belief is that he is already here, living in London, and already teaching in London and all over the world. You don't find Maitreya's teachings throughout Buddhism like you do in Hinduism, and that is because Buddhism releases the teachings of the Buddha, which is the path of enlightenment, or how to achieve enlightenment through the path of the mind, wisdom. Maitreya teaches the path of liberation through love. Okay, from Buddhism, and like I said, you can find Maitreya mentioned in the tradition as the future Buddha. From there we move into the Abrahamic traditions. And to start, we find Maitreya in the Jewish tradition as Enoch, Enoch of the Bible, Enoch of the book of Genesis. As you know, Enoch is considered the first human that takes favors with God and walks with God and has no more need to return to the planet and have a physical existence or a physical experience. As I mentioned in previous videos, Maitreya is the first member of the human family that graduates, that obtains enlightenment, liberation, takes the last initiation and enters the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, the spiritual white brotherhood. So you can find Maitreya being mentioned under a different name, Enoch, in the Bible, in the Old Testament. You would also find Maitreya being mentioned as Metatron, because according to some scholars, and I agree with this interpretation, Enoch and Metatron are the same person. Metatron, you can find him being mentioned in several books in the Kabbalistic tradition. From there we move into Christianity. And in Christianity we don't find Maitreya being mentioned by name, but we find his works through his favorite disciple, the Master Jesus. 2,000 years ago, Maitreya released his teachings through his disciple, the Master Jesus. And you can find that obviously in the New Testament, and you will find his basic teachings of love and compassion being mentioned in the Bible. In the Muslim tradition, Maitreya is known as the Imam Mahdi. He is the Mahdi of the future. And as far as I understand, there are several scholars and followers of the tradition that agree that the Mahdi is already in the world. The Mahdi is the great sage teacher that comes to rescue humanity from the corruption that is all around us, and the Mahdi is here to guide humanity into this new age. In future videos, I will be talking more about the specific teachings within the different traditions, and I will also talk about the modern traditions known as the esoteric schools, and where Maitreya can be found within these different new schools of thought. But for now I will leave it there. As I said before, I hope you have a wonderful new year, and if you like what you hear here, please give it a like, Share these videos, leave your comments. I will try to answer the questions in future videos. Thank you. Peace be with you. Goodbye.